Shabbos, everyone. Good Shabbos. Shabbat Shalom. This is for the Shabbat of the 21st of Tevet. It is January 9th and 10th. The moon will be at about 60% of a waning gibbous moon. The upcoming month is the month of Shvat, in which the great holiday of Tu B'Shvat comes. So we are waning towards the end of the month of Tevet. This week's parasha is Parashat Shemot. It is the beginning of the book of Sefer Shemot, the book of Exodus, which in Hebrew literally means the book of names. It's called the book of names because the word names is one of the first key words in the parasha. So the parasha begins, Eile Shemot, Ve'ele Shemot b'nei Yisrael haba'im Mitzrayma et Yaakov ish ubeito ba'u. These are the names of the sons of Israel who came to Mitzrayim with Jacob, each coming with his household. So the Midrash starts in this really fascinating place when it looks at this verse. So the Midrash responds to this verse, Ve'ele Shemot b'nei Yisrael, Hadahu dechtiv, as it is said in Proverbs, Chosech shivto soneh v'no. So it's a famous verse that is translated as, he who spares the rod hates his son, ve'ohavo shicharu musar. I would say that it's best, though it is interpreted very literally in our tradition, the other way we understand this is quite metaphorically. So here it is clearly it is partly a metaphor, but the Midrash is seeing this descent into Egypt as a trial, as a tribulation that the Israelites are going to go through on a long arc of our people's history that is meant to refine us and to make us into more elevated and sensitive human beings. So one of the ways we understand this verse is that both collectively as the human race, and also within individual peoples like our people, and also individually, we're going to go through hardships, and that we are to delve into these hardships to find the wisdom that is there, that is capable of helping us become more full, more whole as human beings, people who are more and more capable of participating in healing and the restoration, the reparation of the world. So the simple meaning of this verse from Mishle, from Proverbs, means that if you withhold moral teaching to someone, including your own child, you're sort of setting up a situation where the relationship may well break down. It's not an expression of love to withhold moral instruction from your child or from anyone else, as we will see. Then it says, Ve'ohavo shicharu musar, the one who loves their child, shicharu musar. And I don't think this phrase is adequately translated in most places that I've looked at it, in any place that I've looked at it, because shicharu comes from the word shachar, which is one of the words for dawn. So Amud HaShachar refers to the earliest rays of light that appear on the horizon. So if you love someone, shicharu musar, you wanna break the light of dawn into the world through musar. Musar is understood as, it comes from the word to pass something on, to transmit something. It also connotes instruction, sometimes even reproof. So chosech shivto soneh v'no, one who withholds moral teachings to their child, as it were, hates them. Ve'ohavo shicharu musar, and the one who loves them, gives the light of dawn through transmission. So it's seen as a mark of wisdom in our ethical writings, a mark of wisdom is that you appreciate and you even seek reproof. And when you are going through trials and tribulations, that you are seeking how what you are learning, what you can learn from those hardships that can make you into a more whole person. So the midrash continues here, quoting Psalms 94 verse 12. It says, Ashrei hagever asher tiasrenu yah umitoratcha tilamdenu. Happy is the person, the man literally, which whom God tries, to puts through hardship, umitoratcha tilamdenu, and from God's instructions teaches him. So Torah, by the way, means instruction. So one person once translated the Torah as the book of instruction. So when it continues here that so that happy is the person who receives chastisement, happy and through the instruction that they receive from that chastisement, they learn something. And then the midrash continues to say that through this process of reflecting on the things that we go through and the reproof we receive from others, we inherit the olam haba. So it says ha'olam haba, we inherit the world to come, dichtiv, as it also says in Proverbs chapter 6 verse 23. Let me get the whole verse here. Ki ner mitzvah v'torah or, a mitzvah is a candle and the Torah is a great light. V'derech haim, the way of life, tochachot musar. So you see the word tochacha there, which means rebuke, and again that word musar, that means a kind of transmission or a reproof. So the way of life is the rebuke that disciplines, or the rebuke that transmits a lesson, transmits Torah. So seeing that the Midrash makes this direct connection between Yisurim, trials and tribulations, and Tochacha and Musar, rebuke and transmission, we come to this practice. It is really an art form of Tochacha, of rebuke, or proof, or something like that. It's hard to translate. And the texts that the idea of Tochacha comes from, is most centrally based on this verses from Leviticus chapter 19. Two key verses, and they have to really be read together. It says, Lo tisna et achicha bilvavecha, do not hate your brother or your kinsfolk in your heart. Do not hate them in your heart. Rather, hochiach tochiach et amitecha, rather reprove them. You shall surely reprove them. It's emphatic there. V'lo tisa alav chet, and incur no guilt, incur no sin on their account. This requires, this is a mitzvah now. The mitzvah is that we are required to give reproof. Lo tikom v'lo titor et bnei amecha, you shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against the members of your people. And then it says, ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, that you shall love your fellow human being, or love the other, love your neighbor as yourself. And then to really add weight to this mitzvah, these two mitzvot, it says, Ani Adonai, I am Hashem, I am Hashem. So it's taught in a Baraita. It says in the Talmud, Tanya Rabbi Omer, it says that Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi says, Azehu derech yishara she'avor lo ha'adam. What is the proper path, the upright path that a person should choose for themselves? It said, what is the answer? Ye'ahav et hatochachot, that you should love tochacha, you should love receiving reproof. Shekol zaman shetochachot ba'olam, as long as there is this art of rebuke in the world, nachat ruach la'olam, a peaceful spirit will comes to the world. Tova uvracha ba'in la'olam, that goodness and blessing come to the world. Ra'ah mistaleket min ha'olam, and evil departs from the world. Shene'emar, as it says, V'lamochichim yin'am v'alehem tavo birkat tov, as it says also in Proverbs. But to those who give tochacha, those who admonish, shall be delight. But to those who admonish shall be delight, and a good blessing shall come upon them. So tochacha is both valued in terms of the requirement, one of the 613 mitzvot, the requirement to give tochacha, but also the wisdom of seeking and learning from tochacha when you are called to account. The art of tochacha, whether you are receiving it or giving it, is a very delicate art, because it is it is so easy to get stuck in shame when you're dealing with receiving rebuke, or when you are giving rebuke. It's just a hair's breadth away from falling into the trap of thinking that you are a bad person. So this is something that is part of the discipline of learning tochacha, both how to receive it and how to give it. It is part of the discipline of learning when hard things happen in the world, to your people, to yourself. It is part of the discipline that we hopefully gain skill over the course of our lives of digging into those areas and finding the instruction, to find the Torah in it that can allow us to become more fully human. So I'd like to suggest that tochacha is best understood as calling in, not calling out. So in one of probably my favorite book that I go back to over and over again, it's called Amud HaTfilah. It is a work attributed to the Baal Shem Tov. It's teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Israel ben Eliezer. And when he talks about giving tochacha, he actually says, before you give tochacha, you must actually find within yourself the exact fault that you are hoping to call in the other person. That is to say, you are not approaching the person as a superior to an inferior. You are approaching the person in love with a kind of identification. You understand in yourself the exact same fault, let's say, that you're about to call out in the other person. So it is a reciprocal process. When you go into this reciprocal process in that way, you as the reprover may be just as altered, if not more altered, by the encounter than the person you are hoping to reprove. If you are on the receiving end, then you are opening yourself to another human being who's giving you feedback, which you understand as kind of a message from the divine that will allow you to, that will also can be incorporated into your understanding of how to be a more whole person. Of course, the Talmud says this is so tricky. The Talmud says, Tanya Amar Rabbi Tarfon, Tmehani ani im yesh bador hazeh shemakabel tochacha. I would be surprised, said Rabbi Tarfon, I would be amazed if there's a single person in this generation who knows how to receive tochacha. And then Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says, Tmehane im yesh bador hazeh sheyodea lehochiach. I would be surprised, said Elazar ben Azariah. I would be blown away if there's one person in this generation who knows how to give tochacha. So this is a very tricky art. And I think in many ways the technology that we have nowadays for doing this is more developed than it used to be, partly because a lot of science has been applied to the art of communication and the art of calling someone in, or being called in, or being open to being called in. But it is a mark of wisdom in our tradition that we actually seek to be called in. We seek opportunities to grow as human beings, and that means being open to receiving the criticism of others. Um, and the art of tocha, giving tochacha, is now a much more refined art around how you express things with your feelings, using I statements, all these kinds of things. The tradition is very strict about how to give rebuke, and how to give musar, how to give tochacha. Um, and it's, for example, it says that you should never hit someone, and you should never, even more impressively, they say never cause the person's face to become white. That is to say, to blanch, to become ashamed, to become embarrassed. When a person's face becomes white, the blood leaves their face. The Talmud says this is the same as killing them. So however you are, though we don't see any instruction in that, we see a deep ethic around how you have to prepare yourself to give tochacha, and if you are and something of an awareness about what it is to receive tochacha, because you are not to shame or humiliate the person in the process of giving tochacha. This very communal aspect and relational aspect of tochacha is very apparent in those verses from Leviticus. Um, you notice that it says, where'd it go? Sorry, so going back to the verse in Leviticus where it says, notice that it says, Lo tisnat achicha belvavecha, don't hate your kinsfolk in your heart. Tochiach et amitecha, reprove your kin, but incur no sin on their account. Lo tikom v'lo titor b'nei amecha, don't take vengeance or bear a grudge against the members of your people. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love the other as yourself, ani Adonai. So all of it is very much bound in relationship. So good tochacha, strong tochacha, is really about building relationship. It's about lifting the other person up. It's about teaching them. Receiving tochacha is the art of knowing that someone is trying to call you in, is calling you into relationship, and they're calling you to task for something they see as some kind of deficiency. So when you are receiving tochacha, you can listen closely to the 4 areas that you can look into and say, with honesty, this is something I need to work on a little bit, or maybe a lot. My teacher Eben, I consider him a master of tochacha. One day he called me into his office and he sat down and studied this piece from Likutei Moharan by Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, attributed. It's teachings of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. And I don't remember what the teaching was exactly, but when I left his office, I felt uplifted, I felt dignified, I felt kind of on cloud 9, and I just loved this intimate time with my teacher where he shared something really deep with me. And as I was walking home, it suddenly hit me that he had just given me tochacha. He had actually called me out on something he was watching me do, an attitude I had. I don't quite remember the situation anymore, but I was so delighted that I had received real tochacha that actually made me feel like a better human being, and I could actually learn from it. And in the moment, I did not realize he was giving me reproof at all. It was only on really reflecting on what he had taught me in that moment that I realized he had handed over some really important wisdom of something I needed to incorporate. So that's the art of tochacha. And so I'm wishing everyone a Shabbat Shalom, and wishing everyone peace and happiness and openness to wisdom, and openness to wisdom to being called in and to calling people in instead of calling people out.